Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to The Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She is the host of the show, and she is the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's real estate authority. That is Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday, and if you can't listen to the entire show, don't worry. It's always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com. It will link you over to podcast or to YouTube as well, or you can just search for Barb on podcasts like iHeartRadio. Barb, every week, Your Real Estate Voice covers great information about the housing market and one of your largest assets, that is your home. Barb, what are we going to be talking about today?
Oh, Richard, I'm kind of excited about these topics today because it's stuff that probably you don't hear too many real estate brokers discuss. And I think it's very, very important. The first one is contract provisions that protect both the buyers and the sellers. You know, it's the lawyers at the Division of Real Estate that actually write these contracts. They've gotten really long. They're about 20 pages long. And the theory is they're supposed to make sense to everybody, but there's a couple gotchas in there. And if you're not really good at reading the fine print and understanding it, or if your agent isn't, it can get you in trouble. So we're going to talk about some landmines in the contract provisions. Also, we'll talk about some top trends that are going on right now that are proving that real estate is a great investment. And then we're also going to talk about, if you're selling a home, how to be the best home in your neighborhood when you do go on the market. We're going to help you get that house ready for sale. And then the last topic is more about making offers and being the winning buyer when you make an offer, actually how you do that. And some are the top things that sellers love to get when they receive an offer from a buyer. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
Barb, real estate is a business. It's a legal transaction that must be in writing. And I know the contracts can be intimidating to some folks. I used to be a trial attorney, so I know that sometimes, boy, it can be intimidating. What are some of the contract provisions that protect both buyers and sellers?
Well, one thing that people should know is the way the contracts are designed, it's a very, very buyer-friendly state. So all licensed real estate agents in the state of Colorado have to use the same state form unless they happen to be selling new construction, which those builders are allowed to use their own contracts, and some other corporate sales like bank-owned properties or things like that. Generally, the sellers will use their own forms, but I would say 99% of the time, it's typically that state form that all the licensed agents have to use. Theoretically, it has to be understandable, but I find many times not even agents fully understand what's in the contract. That's why it's so critical that you hire somebody that really understands what it says and to make sure that you're protected every step of the way. So when you're planning to make a move, what they do in the contracts is they give the buyer an opportunity to do their own, what they call due diligence. To me, it's almost like a letter of intent to buy. Does that make sense, Richard?
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
It really is, because the buyer has so many different ways that they could get out of the contract. They could get out of the contract if they don't like their loan, if they don't like the payments, terms, interest rates, which they should know up front before they make an offer. They can get out of the contract if they don't like the title work. They can get out of the contract if they're not okay with the survey. They can get out of the contract if they don't like the homeowners association. They can get out of the contract if the house doesn't pass inspection and the seller's unwilling to fix it. They can get out of the contract if it doesn't appraise at the agreed upon sales price, and or if the appraiser actually asks for something to be repaired, because it doesn't say in the contract if the house doesn't make the loan guidelines, who has to fix it? Or they could just get out of the contract if they just change their mind. Yet, on the other hand of that, sellers really have no out. Once they commit to selling a home, it's all in the buyer's court, whether or not this contract is going to move forward or not. Just on inspections, there are 33 different systems that come under scrutiny for an inspection. And it's probably the most common pain point at which a contract could fail. The typical things that sellers have to deal with that many times are unexpected would be things like repairing sewer or septic. What if the brand of your electrical panel is Federal Pacific? Many times the buyers ask for that to be replaced. What if you're getting a property that's on a well? The well's going to have to be tested for bacteria. Well, did you know, Richard, I kind of had a little hissy fit yesterday because a buyer's agent wanted to send an unlicensed inspector to run the well practically dry and have the seller sign a release of liability that if he breaks anything, he's not on the hook. How would you feel about that?
As a former trial attorney, I would recommend to my client that there's no way in heck that they allow that to go on. You sign a release. This person isn't licensed. Running your well dry like that, you're liable to be pumping up sand, ruin your entire system. And now this guy's off the hook for whatever he does. No
Exactly.
way.
I replied back and said, what makes you qualified to do this? Because I know there is no qualification. There's no license to be an inspector. And the other thing is just doing a bacteria test. So a lot of the loans in this market are VA loans. So typically, if they're on a well, the VA will require not only a bacteria test, but also a metals test. The metals test takes weeks and weeks. So we actually have to remind the agents, hey, make sure you get those tests done up front. We don't want the contract delayed at the back end because you didn't do your homework. And then if they don't know how to do the well test properly, if they don't properly clean the spigot, take the little screen out of the bottom, let the water run for a while. If they don't do that test properly, it could show bacteria. Then they come back and ask the seller to put chlorine bleach in the well, which shocks the well. It's kind of a poison too. And many times it might be for no reason. So I always require that, hey, you got to bring in a professional that's certified to do these tests, not Joe, Billy, Bob inspector that got an online certification, and that is all. What it says in the contract, as far as condition, is the home is sold where is with all its faults as is. Well, it's not really true. Even though it says that, the buyer has a right to inspect absolutely anything they want, any way they want. And many, many times they will ask for concessions or stuff. I've even had them ask for upgrades, like a new furnace when the inspector said the furnace is fine, or brand new windows. That's the kind of stuff that we see a lot. So, it's interesting. Every state is different. And that is why when you're buying and selling homes, especially if you're moving around the country, it will be a different experience every single time. As an example, in the state of Texas, the buyer has only 10 days to do whatever inspections and whatever due diligence they want to do. And after that, the earnest money is non-refundable. Not so much in the state of Colorado. In fact, they put 3 separate hidden provisions in the contract to almost ensure that the buyer's earnest money is 100% refundable. And they can tie up your house for a whole month, and you never really know the certainty of whether or not you're going to closing. This makes home sellers crazy. And what about an appraisal? If the appraiser doesn't think it's worth the agreed upon sales price, then you might have to renegotiate. We also have appraisals come in low sometimes. And so we make sure that we're providing good information to the appraiser to help them do their job. But if the buyer is getting an FHA or VA loan, there are certain condition issues about the house in order to pass the appraisal's inspection. That would be peeling paint, missing outlet covers, broken windows, safety issues like trip hazards, fences falling down, deep window wells that are uncovered. But the contract doesn't say who has to fix those things. It just says to meet the loan guidelines for the buyer to get that done, they have to be fixed. So it's another point of negotiation late in the process. Again, it makes the whole thing kind of uncertain until you're actually at the finish line. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the host of Your Real Estate Voice. I'm also with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And we're talking about contract provisions to protect buyers and sellers. Next up, we're going to be covering protections that you can put in your contract to make sure it's a done deal from the beginning. If you are thinking of making a move and you want to talk to me about what to do, what not to do to get your house ready for sale, go to barbhasthebuyers.com, click on Find My Buyer, or give me a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
Barb, we're discussing the real estate contracts, the provisions that we can insert into the contracts to protect both buyers and sellers. We know that buyers have plenty of ways to get out of a contract, but Barb Schlinker, you are the real estate voice and the host of the program. So my question for you is, what are some contract provisions that help home sellers?
Well, one of them is if your buyer has a house to sell to perform, first of all, you want to see all the information. I have gotten offers on my listings where they come across and say, hey, we want to make an offer on your listing, but we have to sell our house to perform and it's not on the market yet. And we just want to reserve your house until our house is sold. How would you feel about that one, Richard?
No way. This is why I want somebody like you who has been in this market, has done it for decades, knows the ups, the downs, the interest rates, the latest trends, and all of the little ways that people can try to separate home owners and home sellers from their money.
That's right. And so these are some of the things that we watch out for. And we actually do a lot of deep dive when we get offers to make sure that maybe that person that has a house to sell, maybe their house is under contract and on the surface it seems fine. But if you look at that contract and do a deep dive, but that buyer that's making an offer on their house also has a house to sell, which is like a domino effect. And so you really have to look into those carefully. They could work, but they have to be well documented. And then, of course, in the contract, there's 3 different provisions that deal with the earnest money deposit. The dispute, paragraph 4, paragraph 23, paragraph 22, they all say a little bit different things. But at the end of the day, if you don't have an agent that knows how to protect you from these provisions, it could be that the buyer could walk away at the very last minute and you got to give the earnest money back, which is the worst thing that you can do. So if you are thinking of making a move and you'd like to get tips on what to do, what not to do to get your house ready for sale, and talk to me or somebody on my team, hiring the right agent can make the difference of you having a smooth transaction or not. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. As I said, she's the host of the program. I sit in with her and she is the voice. You're listening to the Real Estate Voice, as I said, and you can always reach out and contact Barb at 719-301-3900 or just visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the top trends that show real estate is a great investment. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.